Everybody, welcome back to Off the Wall. I'm Mike.
What's up, everybody? I'm Bogz.
We have a new Disney Star Wars series that has dropped on Disney Plus as of this week. 3 episodes of a 12-episode season of Andor, the prequel to Rogue One, written by Tony Gilroy, who was the writer for the movie Rogue One. This stars, once again, Diego Luna as Cassian Andor, along with just a smattering of other people. Like I said, the first 3 episodes dropped on Wednesday. Bogz, as a big Star Wars fan like me, what did you think?
Honestly, I thought it was hit and miss. The world building, the set design, costumes, absolutely fantastic. And that's what is hooking me into the show. The lived-in world, the gritty world, dark world, obviously very Blade Runner-esque. That is all seriously excellent. Like the ship designs, the interiors, you know, how the planets look, all of that stuff is gorgeous. The way it's shot, the cinematography, so impressive. They're the positives. I do have a number of negatives, obviously we'll get into. But overall, the story, Cassian's story, I find really boring. I was struggling to keep interest. I felt like it should have been one episode, like one long episode, like an hour and a half or whatever, because there's no reason for it to be 3. It ends weirdly, the 2 episodes, but going into the 3rd. I actually thought the 3rd was my favorite episode. But yeah, it's a struggle. I like some characters, some of the supporting characters, but Cassian, like, I don't really care that he's trying to find his sister. I have no I thought he was okay character in Rogue One, but the story that they're telling is really, really slow, and I felt like the flashbacks were actually distracting, because you'd have like quite random ones, like the kids with spears, and then it cut to them like midway through a scene, and then it cut back again. I'm like, what relevance did that specific clip have to that scene? Obviously, it did tie up at the end where he's on the ship with his new family, and when he's going off planet. That was kind of nice. But other than that, like, yeah, I was really struggling with Cassian in particular, because obviously he was good in an ensemble, but on his own, like he's not showing the range of emotion. He's just like kind of aggressive with everyone, and yeah, like the story and him in particular, I was actually disappointed with. But the world building is beautiful, and that's what keeps me interested. So I am looking forward to the next episode to see where we go. I believe we go to Coruscant next episode. That would be great, seeing the Senate and all of that, how lived in it is and things. But overall, I have to be honest, I am disappointed. So yeah, we'll get into it obviously, but it's really a hit and miss for me.
I think I'm leaning. I definitely am picking up some of the stuff you're bringing up criticism wise. I do feel like where parts 1 and 2 choose to end is very weird, because I was like, okay, things are picking up, and then the episode just kind of ends, and I was like, oh, well, thank God there's 2 more, because that was a really
imagine if they just dropped 1 episode, or like. This would have got torn apart.
Yeah, I would have been mad. I will say, I mean, these are kind of the longer episodes we're used to with their Star Wars stuff, where they're back to being 40+ minutes. You know, with the last few shows that Disney Plus has dropped, whether it was Ms. Marvel, She-Hulk, whatever, they've been capping at like 30, 35 tops. With Moon Knight, they started to kind of get progressively shorter. Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian have always had 40-minute to an hour episodes, give or take. So this is kind of keeping back with that. I do agree. I think the part of the reason the flashbacks are so jarring is because they just cut to them like they would cut to any other scene. Like with Book of Boba Fett, when they had flashbacks, there was literally a flash on screen to let us know we're transitioning into this backstory. With this, they just cut to it like we're cutting to any other scene in the show. So until you kind of get used to what these flashbacks look like, it's a little jarring when you're like, I don't, oh, okay, like we're on this planet in the past now. The first episode, those flashbacks were very off-putting in the sense that I didn't know what was going on at first. It was hard to follow. Once I got to 2 and 3, I kind of understood what the formula was. Then it was easier to keep track of. But very curious choice to not subtitle the flashbacks, despite them speaking whatever language it is they're speaking. I'm not sure what the whole story is there, but it was a very curious choice because it reminded me a lot of Prey, which just came out on Hulu or a little while back, where they had the audio in like Comanche and in French and things like that, but then they kind of did the Hunt for Red October thing and transitioned to English. So it was an interesting choice to see that but as far as the world building stuff you're talking about, I mean, 10 out of 10. They are putting the time and effort. This is actually of the 3 Star Wars shows we've had, this is the first one they've done that wasn't shot on the LED stage. They shot The Mandalorian and Boba Fett on that LED stage that they shot the Batman on. This one, they actually like,
you can tell,
built the sets. Yeah. This feels lived in is a word I keep hearing a lot of people use, you included. And this is the first time we're getting to see in the world of Star Wars, just people, like not soldiers, not spies, not bounty hunters, not Jedi, just dudes doing their job, whether it's this corporate security force and the guy sitting there eating his takeout and just trying to get through his shift, or, you know, I'm going to close up the shop and go to the bar and maybe hook up with my boyfriend later. Like just people just living. And we haven't really had that in Star Wars yet.
Yeah, not really, not to this extent, where like pretty much the whole series is focused on these, outside of obviously the Andor storyline. And some of them characters are good. Like I really like Bigz. You know, she had a development throughout the 3 episodes, you know, where she was, and then with the whole boyfriend situation, and obviously Andor being a former or ex-boyfriend or relationship that was a bit open there. And then what she went through when, you know, Tim got killed, you know, and her emotion being portrayed, I was surprised. You know, I kind of I was a little you know, I felt for her. She's bleeding as well. I thought that added a lot to it. And I really like I believe his name is Cyril, the kind of officer that's clearly jaded in this whole process of trying to find Andor, and he's out of his depth, and he's kind of pondering a lot, and just a lot of other like the supporting characters. Like I even really like the scene with Andor and the alien creature, and you know the guy trying to hustle him, and the alien creature was there just like a backup. Even though they spoke basic, I was like, oh, please speak alien. It kind of worked though. And also when he was you know, talking with trying to bargain to get off planet, I like that guy as well. And Cyril's support as well, the short stocky Scottish guy. I thought he was great. I thought he was really good. And
I think he was my favorite of the support.
Right. And I do like the Brits involved. I think with anyone obviously they're not imperial, you're not officially a part of the empire, whatever kind of security bureau police they are, they like, even though they are them, but you know, that type, I do like that they're British, because, you know, throwing back to the original trilogy, obviously a lot of the empire are British, so it just has that regalness about evil, dark characters or imperialistic tendencies and things like that. So I do like that they did that. Like I said, supporting characters, that was all a part of the world building. The ships they're on, all of that was really good. So my problem is obviously with not with that.
I think where a lot of people are having troubles with this show are with the pacing. It is a slow paced show, and we're going for 12 episodes, so I feel like they're taking their time with it, which I can appreciate. They're not trying to, because I think in a lot of other shows, episode 1 would have ended with him getting on the ship with Skarsgård to fly off to where, like, we would have just done the thing. But so it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's like, I don't want them to rush through and hurry. Like, I want to spend some time sharing in this lived in world, but also, like, I got stuff to do. Now, granted, trying to watch 3 episodes in one day, it probably felt a little bit more grating than if I had just watched one at a time. To that mark, I would just say where they ended is where it threw me off. Like if I had watched these one at a time, I think I would have noticed the pacing a little bit less, but I would have been a bit more thrown off with how they chose to end the episode. Watching 3 at once, they're ending in weird places, but in shorter bursts, but I feel the pacing a bit more.
Yeah, the pacing is a real struggle, especially the second episode. No action in it whatsoever, apart from the natives. Kamari, is it Kamaris? I think they're called. And
yeah,
yeah, and apart from like when the lead girl got shot, that was the only action scene in the whole episode. I mean, this is Star Wars. I find the music really mellow and placid as well. I wasn't too overly excited about the themes and things like that. And on top of that, you know, I know people really want a show like this, but me, you know, for me personally, Star Wars has always been a fun, wonder-filled show. You know, series. Obviously, original trilogy fan, prequel fan. I do really like the animated stuff, The Mandalorian, obviously the 2 episodes of Boba Fett. All them have in common is, you know, is the Force, the unique selling point, the USP of Star Wars. Not a single mention of the Force, and I know it's probably not going to be there with this series. But that is, again, a negative for me. Watching Star Wars, I tune in for Star Wars for that. So having a show that is not so far from that, the story has to be compelling enough, and it's just not. It's just really slow. Like I felt like it. So he's the first 10 minutes absolutely fantastic, really Blade Runner, sci-fi, fantasy-esque. Where he goes to a brothel. I was struggling to guess what that was. I thought, is this a brothel? Yeah. Is this a brothel? And then the more dialogue obviously went down. I thought, wow. And then they go to, obviously he shoots the guys, and then he's on the run from the security guys, and then he gets off planet. That's pretty much the 3 episodes. Why it takes so long? It's so dialogue heavy. And the particular dialogue is, for me, it's not as fun, as quippy as, for example, characters in The Mandalorian, let's say, which will often make you smile, make you like, it's a very serious show. There's almost no laughs in it. I'm not necessarily looking for laughs, but that is the humor is embedded in Star Wars. That is the identity of the IP. And this is completely devoid of that. So I was conscious throughout the whole thing about how serious it was. But yeah, there's the serious parts with Andor. I really found it dull. Until Stellan Skarsgård came in, again, I know he's a great actor, a character actor. Really interested in his story, what he's bringing. Their kind of relationship was okay, but yeah, up until he came, I was totally almost, quite frankly, bored of the Andor stuff. So when he came in, obviously I had an okay action scene in that kind of warehouse that they're in. But yeah, looking forward, I want to see kind of what happens with them on Coruscant. Obviously with Mon Mothma, who else in the Empire potentially will get involved. Maybe a Krennic, maybe a Tarkin. It seemed too big of an issue to be like for someone like Vader to get involved, but potentially. But yeah, some interesting characters could potentially get involved, but and then obviously the beginnings of the rebellion and people involved with that. But yeah, it was a real struggle for me. It actually took me 2 days to get through because it just wasn't compelling enough to watch it through. So yeah, like I said, a few disappointments amongst the thing. I see what they're trying to do. Obviously, big scale story, big scope, and trying to do a contained story like the original trilogies did. You felt the scale of the worlds and the stories and the space travel and things like that. And obviously, we were just with Han, Luke, and Leia, and obviously the first, Chewie, and the first one, Obi-Wan. They're trying to do the same thing. I feel that, but the story is just not gripping me. And it was a struggle to get through. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I think this is where we're going to split a little bit because with the slower pace stuff, I understand, and I've brought this up a million times. Like, the Batman is 3 hours. It's a very slow movie. Slow movies don't necessarily bother me. I actually kind of like the deliberate pacing of it. So that
on the back of that, by the way, the short security guy, his support, he's in the Batman, right?
Is he?
Yes, he is. He's a part of the police, in Batman. I can't remember which character, but he is in the Batman. Yes, I have seen him. I did recognize. I was like, oh, that's that guy. So yeah. Anyway,
I'm gonna have to look.
I know you're a big the Batman fan.
Yeah, so. No, I love that movie. But that's become my point. Is like, I like stuff that's slower paced. I actually I enjoy it. I understand that I am myself in that scenario, though. I know not everybody does. And I think, kind of to your point about like no mentions of like the Force and the combat and all that, there are people out there who that's why they come to Star Wars.
Sure.
That's why they're here. And if that is your pull to Star Wars, this is probably not going to be for you. The ideas I'm getting for this show are that this is almost going to be like House of Cards in Star Wars. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that Tony Gilroy worked on House of Cards, but also Bo Willimon, who was the showrunner for House of Cards, is writing and directing or writing several episodes this season as well. Stephen Schiff, who worked on The Americans, which is this Emmy award-winning political intrigue political thriller, is directing several episodes of this show. So I think we're going to see a lot of that, taking the political stuff from the prequels that people, including myself, didn't feel like they handled quite as well, and taking another shot at it, and from more of that thriller point of view with how you can handle politics. That's kind of stuff I am totally here for. And so, yes, I love the action. I love the space battles. Give me lightsabers. Give me all of that. I will never say no to that. That's chocolate. I mean, that's candy. That's good stuff. Sometimes, but for me, I like to just kind of sit and live in a world for a little bit. And so I think that's where there's going to be a lot of split on how people view this show.
For sure, yeah, of course, Star Wars is for everybody, and yeah, there will people been crying for this kind of show for years, quite frankly, and so I totally get that. And if you like it, great, or anyone watching, absolutely thrilled for you. But it's just not what I want to watch, or why I tune into Star Wars. I want the George Lucas, Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau type. Like I said, it is the unique selling point, the mythology, ancient religion, message versus evil, emotional connections, things like that. And this show is completely devoid of that. So I'm trying. I was trying, but like I said, without any of the kind of pixie dust, I needed the story to be gripped. And as you said, it was a slow pace thing with a character that I'm not particularly a massive fan of. I do like the actor, to be honest, but I'll be honest, even his portrayal sometimes of Andor, like I said, he didn't show like a massive range of emotion. He's kind of just super aggressive all the time, and on edge, so I just wasn't bored. It didn't kind of bring me in along with the story. So for example, even with the Canary, I'm sure I'm butchering that. Canary stuff, we don't know why they're all kids. We don't know what's happening there. They give us no information about that. I'm sure they will, but cutting to that, I really felt like upon the ending, okay, that's fine, I can see what they're trying to do there off planet and stuff. That was cool. That was a nice shot, both suns, kind of sunsets, as he's taking off planet on both planets. That was a nice shot, but up until the whole thing, I'm not sure what relevance the backlash has had, apart from to say he's a native and he got taken by his adoptive family. Okay, but again, I didn't care, because it's just what they were telling was just not the most compelling, because it felt like distracting. It's just things like this, and then coming off the back of Kenobi, which was really not a good series, and the Book of Boba Fett. absolutely not. No, I thought it was really bad actually. And then the Book of Boba Fett. Obviously, I do love the 2 Mando episodes of that, but except for that, again, that was a big letdown. Massive character, poor series. So it just kind of doubles down. I am getting a little bit jaded with the new Star Wars. So if Filoni and Favreau aren't involved, I'm kind of not looking forward to them now, especially off the back of this. I'm not saying it can't be good. I'm not saying it can't be engrossing. But yeah, it was not what I want from Star Wars personally. But obviously, so many people do great. I feel like I'm in the minority, but I feel also that it is a big contingent of people who will be disappointed with this.
Yeah,
particularly of how slow paced it is.
And that's you know, we're recording this review on Thursday, so a day after it's come out, and I've had 24 hours to kind of sit with the show and see what other people are saying online. And what I'm finding is kind of like what you're saying is like the bulk of people who are the ones who have been clamoring for a show like this are very happy with it, but there is definitely a pocket of people who are like, this is not for me. And like we said, this is definitely not going to be everyone's Star Wars. This is going to be a type of Star Wars, because this is also the first show that neither Filoni or Favreau have anything to do with. They are not attached to this show in any way. They're not listed as EPs. They have nothing to do with it. So it's right. All Kathleen Kennedy and Tony Gilroy. So it is kind of curious to see how this show will be handled without any of that additional influence from these two guys who have been playing with live action Star Wars TV up until now. So I'm curious to see what, also with the way these 3 episodes played out. A lot of TV shows, especially like in the 90s and early 2000s, when they would have their first episode, it was usually a 2-parter. And that's kind of what this felt like, was like a 3-part first episode. Yeah. Now we're past that. I want to see how the rest of the show, if we're treating all these first 3 episodes to just be, here's the groundwork from which we're going to take off from. Cool. Now let's see what the rest of the show is actually going to be like.
Yeah. Like I said, I am interested in the next episode because of the world that they built. You know, it's fantastically made, quite frankly. Yeah. So, but I don't get how I'm more interested in Skarsgård's character, you know, Biggs, Cyril, than Andor. It's just because I don't know. I feel like they've shown emotion, not really necessarily Skarsgård's character, but him, just who he is basically is really intriguing. But yeah, the main character, everything around him, his storyline. Yeah, I get he's kind of a spy right now, and all that. So
I mean, yeah,
right. Obviously, he's going to become a spy, and we'll see the kind of start of that as he joins the rebellion, the early beginnings. But yeah, I really need the story to pick up. Especially, we're going to get in 1 episode now. It'd be nice to see Coruscant again and how that's kind of made under these, with this kind of cinematography and this kind of lived-in world. I'm sure we'll see like the Senate and obviously the lower kind of decks on the street level, because obviously, you know, it's so many levels on Coruscant. So yeah, that'll be interesting. But yeah, right now, yeah, it was such a disappointment on one hand, but really fascinating on the other hand. So yeah, there's just not that much Star Wars things in this. Like, I feel like this could have been just a random sci-fi fantasy with like Star Wars names or words. There's no feeling of Star Wars for me as of yet. So yeah, it'll be interesting moving forward to see where they go. But yeah, Cassian, you know, he really needs to step up with his storyline, to be honest. But yeah, like I said, I'm looking forward to it, but really hesitant.
Andor, the show is named after you, so I'm going to need you to, like, you know, earn having a show named after you. Yeah.
And I will shout out the start. The start was like, whoa. You know, being in that brothel, never seeing anything like that. Very adult, obviously. Yeah, and then killing them. You know, obviously reminiscent of Rogue One. I thought, wow, this is what people are talking about. And then just completely slowed down. Too dialogue heavy, in my opinion. Lack of action. disinteresting storyline from him. But like I said, there is things around it that I can be invested in. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. So we want to know, that's what we think about the first few episodes of Andor. We want to know what you guys think. So make sure you let us know down in the comments. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And we'll see you guys again next time for another episode here on Off the Wall. Bye.